Battlefield 2042 might be the best game we've had in years. To some, that's obvious. This game does have its fans. To others, that was a very controversial statement. But before you voice how much you love or hate this game, please watch this video and allow me to pitch why I adore this game, because my reasons might not be what you're expecting, and you may even agree with my perspective. A big part of Battlefield's identity is multiplayer. Being able to play with all kinds of people with many different skill levels offers a sense of challenge, and arguably a bigger, more satisfying accomplishment as you beat the enemy team. One of my fondest memories of a multiplayer game was on Battlefield 3 on Operation Firestorm. After being crushed by the enemy team for the majority of the match, my friends and I executed the biggest comeback of the century and clutched a win. I've had many great experiences with online games, but as I've aged into my early 20s, I've begun to enjoy multiplayer games less and less, to the point where I now just don't play them. Apart from Battlefield 2042, the last noticeable multiplayer game I bought was likely Modern Warfare 2019, and even then, outside of a few matches with some friends, I really didn't play it. I've often wondered why my distaste for multiplayer games has become more prominent in the recent years, and I think I've narrowed down the cause to time. I simply don't have the time to compete with other players anymore. Back when I was younger, like many, I would come home from school, boot up my Xbox and play whatever multiplayer game was popular at the time, probably until the sun went down. This habit would continue until I went to university, where I had less time to play what I enjoy, at which point I'd need to pick and choose which games to put time into. That was in 2018. It's now 2023, where I have even less time to play games. Between balancing a full work week, running a home, spending time with loved ones, there's very little opportunity for downtime. So when I finally do get the opportunity to play some games after a long day of work, I'm a bit drowsy for being up for so long, but I figured I can squeeze in an hour. Do I want to spend that time getting absolutely slaughtered on a multiplayer game? Because sadly, I can't play as much as some other people. No. Instead, I'll go and play a single player game. And it's good fun. There are so many great single player games I enjoy. But whilst playing these games, I can't help but long for what I used to get with some multiplayer ones. There are no single player games like Battlegrounds. There are no single player games like Escape from Tarkov. I miss playing these games, but I just can't compete, so I just don't play them. That brings me to the main game for today's video, Battlefield 2042. When I got it, I was initially playing it with my friends. I know it had its issues and many people didn't like the game, but I had a good time with it. I'll hold my hand up and say I'm not the best at video games, so it's good to have stronger teammates to play with, and we were a strong team together. But between all of our busy schedules, it can be hard to sync a session together. So what happens then? Do I just not play this game because I don't want to be punished for not playing it every waking moment of my life? Well, with most other modern FPS games, yes. But Battlefield 2042 has a great trick up its sleeve. Such a great trick, it inspired this entire video. That trick being bots. Bots in video games aren't new. I remember playing Time Splitters 2 with bots when I was younger, and that's a game from 2002. Sadly nowadays, with a few exceptions, bots have gone out of fashion. They existed prominently when the internet was just beginning. With unreliable connections, developers needed a way to allow players to play their game, and bots were the answer. Whilst compared to today's, they were pretty primitive. As a child, this experience was perfect for me. It's no surprise that with the rise of internet adoption, that bots have slowly phased out of relevance. So what about Battlefield 2042's bots? They are good. In fact, you can argue that there's more teamwork with bots than players online. You die? Don't worry, the bot will try and pick you up. Need ammo? The bot has got you. Your tank is about to blow up? There's a bot just around the corner ready to repair. The bots in this game are competent. When I died and they rushed over to revive me, I was blown away and I don't even know why. Perhaps it's because I remember bots being so mediocre, their actions were basic, and they would just run and gun you. But these bots even revive each other, give each other ammo. It's a complete emulation of the online experience, and I can't help but grin when I launch 2042 to play because I know it's going to be a good time. This isn't the only good thing about bots though, because bots as a whole open up the games they are in. For starters, you can finally play at your desired skill level. Specifically in Battlefield, there are 3 difficulties, each with a noticeable increase. Sometimes I play on beginner. I just want to relax, and that's okay, because games are meant to be played the way that you want to play them. Other times though, I'll happily crank the difficulty for a challenge, and if I get frustrated, I can just lower the difficulty. This control makes for a much more enjoyable gaming experience because I can be quite competitive. Not only do bots allow for control of difficulty, they can also open up new ways to enjoy the game. Playing Battlefield multiplayer, I only ever play Assault because that's what I'm surprisingly okay at. But when playing with bots, I can explore different ways of enjoying this game. Here's me trying to snipe for the first time. I suck, but I'm learning. I actually have time to learn how snipers work instead of getting lasered by hardcore Battlefield players because I can adjust the difficulty to suit my needs. Being able to play with bots allows the player to explore what these amazing games have to offer at their own pace. It was refreshing to not get frustrated at a multiplayer experience. Bots can be the saving grace for dead games. Multiplayer-only games must maintain relevance to remain afloat. Once a game is no longer desirable, it's abandoned as another one takes its place. But there are always people caught as collateral damage when these games inevitably shut down. Let's take H1Z1. The comments on my video is full of people reminiscing about the glory days of it. If this game had a single player mode with bots, or even allowed people to host servers with bots, people who bought the game, such as myself, would still be able to enjoy it today. Instead, hardcore fans of these games are left in the ditch as companies move on to other projects. One final massive benefit to bots is, theoretically, games don't require access to the internet in order to be enjoyed. In an age where everything is always required to be online, games should be made accessible by people who aren't in an area with perfect internet. Bottom line, bots benefit the gaming experience, making games more accessible and way more enjoyable for people who want either a more casual experience like myself or want to be able to explore new ways to play games. So why don't more games incorporate bots into the experience? There can be many reasons why more games don't incorporate bots. One of them must be development time. I know how time-consuming developing an AI can be. At university, my dissertation included a practical project, of which I created an AI using a behavior tree implementation. Now, I'm pretty proud of the AI I made. It can make decisions based on the information it perceives, but it's hard to make something so sophisticated that you feel like you're playing with people. With that, if your game is based around the multiplayer experience, why waste development time and funds building a great AI that people may not even use? Multiplayer games are massive and enjoyed by many, so to spend time on an AI instead of fixing bugs your core player base may have gripes with could be a detriment. Following that, many games nowadays release in such a broken state, and with tighter deadlines from investors and heightened expectations from players, how can a developer focus on such a minor part for a multiplayer game instead of fixing these issues? It doesn't make sense. Additionally, adding bots to multiplayer games may damage the monetary potential. There's no arguing, skins, loot boxes and battle passes are a massive source of revenue for investors. Sorry, I meant game developers. People get to flex their skill with increasingly rarer unlocks by leveling up their battle passes or gambling until they get something cool. But in sessions with bots, there's no one to show off your skins or emotes to, so what's the incentive to buy virtual items? There is none. It's all meaningless if it wasn't already. And even without these two issues, simulating many AIs, all making their own decisions in a world can be a technical challenge. Battlefield ran great on my PC when playing against bots, but the maps are relatively small when compared to other games like, let's go back to H1Z1. That game was already so poorly optimized. Dunking AI with arguably more complex behavior than what I think a Battlefield bot has would have slowed the game even further. This could be mitigated by running the bots on a server, but then you're failing to decouple your multiplayer experience with a solid offline alternative. From my testing, it seems that you can't play Battlefield 2042 on PC without an internet connection. My game simply fails to boot. With that, bot lobbies stating their cooperative experience along with bots being in actual Battlefield matches, it's safe to assume these bots are calculated on the server, resulting in fantastic performance on my end at the expense of requiring an internet connection. But if we ran this same scenario, 127 bots on my machine locally, all making decisions, would I have the performance to play? This is notable in many games. Tarkov, Titanfall, Fortnite, Battlegrounds, and many more have bots in them, but these bots are encountered in a multiplayer environment, on a server. Maybe the technical challenge of running bots does pose an issue. What I will say is I can emulate a Tarkov server on my PC and play at the same time and performance isn't an issue. So if the bots already exist, why can't I natively play Tarkov offline and enjoy the full experience? Whilst I praise the bots in Battlefield, if you look closer, you can still feel they're bots. But I'm excited with the prospect of how AI will evolve over the next decade for video games. There was a really cool Stanford experiment I saw recently that used ChatGPT to simulate people in a world. They made decisions for themselves, interacted with each other, and hosted events. It was an expensive simulation, costing thousands for ChatGPT tokens, but as this technology matures and becomes more affordable, the potential games have for this sort of AI is exciting. Even Skyrim mods are using the power of ChatGPT right now to give NPCs memories based on conversations you have with them. Soon games will be able to dynamically generate questlines for a virtually infinite amount of playtime. But this whole topic really is a video in itself. I'm not sure why DICE added bots to Battlefield. It could have been a result of fear regarding low player counts in large servers, or something completely different. But I hope this trend continues into more multiplayer-focused games. With the rise of AI language models, bots and NPCs in video games may get a whole lot more exciting, and I hope they do. Seeing many games fall out of relevance and become unplayable is hard to watch. They're now relics of the past. I think for a lot of titles releasing today, multiplayer should be an extension of that experience, not the sole identity of the game. The history of the Battlefield games is not without controversy, and if you want a great understanding of that, you can watch the full of Battlefield by clicking the card in the top right. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to give it a like. Let me know in the comments which games you wish had bots in them. I definitely enjoy Escape from Tarkov more when I'm not forced to play against people. I just wish it was native. If you're interested in more of my content, I suggest you subscribe so you don't miss any of my new videos.